All right, good evening, everyone. Can you guys hear me, first of all? Because I had to change my working location from my apartment to my friend's office because there are some issues. Yep, thank you, Victor. Great. And secondly, I have only one screen today. So if you're trying to send me like a private message, be aware that once I start sharing my screen, everyone will see that. So if there is something like a personal you want to discuss, send me an email so we can arrange like a quick call, or we can reply to each other over the email. Aside of that, some other important updates. So first of all, regarding the exam date. So I got a chance to talk about the exam date with the program coordinators. So they recommended me and were asking if it's possible for us to have an exam on, on June 12th. June 12th or June 13th. So either June 12th or June 13th. I need to verify. And the reason for that particular ask was that you guys, as I've found out, will be having some classes on June 6th. So it's kind of like puts us into jeopardy. So I don't want you to be, first of all, overwhelmed with your classes and then taking the exam. So if it's something fine by you, just kind of like to delay the exam or to reschedule the exam by 1 week, I'm willing to give you extra week to work on the assignment, first of all. And secondly, I believe it would be better for your overall grade. Just kind of like, first of all, to spend more time preparation, spending more time working on the exam, and thirdly, not being overwhelmed on the exam day. Make sense? Any objections or commentaries, feel free to unmute yourself. More than happy to have a discussion.
Yes, for me, it's great. Yeah, because we have a lot of courses at the same time and also capstone deadlines, etc. So it's great to have 1 more week.
Sure. Thank you, Victor. Okay. As I'm seeing, yeah, thank you, guys. I'm seeing your responses. So basically, I'm going to do 2 things right after our call. Because we all agreed, I'm gonna postpone or to reschedule the deadline for assignment number 3, Colgate, for 1 week, as well as you should receive a notification about the exam date, maybe like within next 3 or 4 days. Exam format, we're gonna talk about it later on, but basically today, moving away from updates, I want to talk about 3 main things. So first of all, debrief based on the assignment 2 results, then basically brief QA session for the assignment number 3, and small kind of like exam quiz or exam test. So you guys will be able to get a sense or understanding what should you expect in the exam. So any questions in terms of like general or kind of like other inquiries than 3 sections I wanted to talk about today before we start? All right, cool. So first of all, let's start with assignment number 2, Start Digital. So 1 second, let me just share my screen so you guys can see that. Can you guys see my screen? Oh, 1 second. Oh, it's a bit challenging. Okay, yeah, thank you. So basically, so first of all, thank you all for working on this assignment, because it was a bit trickier in terms of, first of all, not having like a very well detailed instructions, but at the same time, you had to realize what was expected and spend some time working on different scenarios and different assumptions. So first of all, as I was mentioning, because this particular assignment is a bit trickier, so the way I was grading your responses or your submissions was based on the toppest or the highest percentage of answers which I was expecting per my comments or per my marks. So for example, if the person answered all questions perfectly, that person would get a score of 100 for all 4 questions. And then basically under kind of like a descending order. If there is another part of deviation, that person which hadn't submitted like all questions or responded to all questions would get a lower mark, but in the relation to the most or to the best possible response or to the best possible submission. So essentially, when we talk about case number 2, I know that many of you submitted results only from a statistical significance or from the correlation standpoint, which wasn't exactly correct, because that particular part of the statistical analysis or correlation analysis is just a part of the answer. What I was expecting you guys to come up with, it was, first of all, pro forma calculations, basically the understanding whether advertising is effective in the economical sense. So because the business Start Digital was investing money for both test results and therefore kind of like launching the full-scale campaign, it was important, first of all, to put into two things into perspective. Thing number 1, understanding whether or how much revenue would be generated based on the actual conversion volumes. And secondly, comparing conversion volumes to the actual spend or impressions per given platforms or given websites. So because we had 6 different websites, and basically they were kind of like structured in the cohorts, for those of you who kind of like came up with that. Basically, the advertising on the website 6 was the most effective in terms of the lowest CPM as well as the cost per conversion obtained. But at the same time, the one hesitation about allocating all budgets towards site 6 only was next, because every single website has a potential like the maximum amount of people possible to be reached on a particular website. Sometimes it's a bit unjustified decision to allocate all money towards site 6. So if I haven't seen all the rationales or kind of like the explanation that, okay, allocating money towards website or site 6 is a good idea, but we also need to take into consideration some of those points I just mentioned, then you would have gotten the grade of 75%. We have 2 students who scored 100%. And basically, I'm not referencing to those people by names, but they did a terrific job in terms of providing, first of all, profitability analysis, statistical analysis, graphical representation for every single question in the assignment. So guys, if you did something different and just like submitted the slide with just a statistical or a correlation analysis and saying that is significant or not significant, it is right answer partially. So that's why you got those particular marks. Also, because I was mentioning that for the format of the submission for this particular assignment is, one second, just not seeing if there are any responses in chat. One moment. Okay, yeah, thank you. So because of the nature of this assignment, I was asking you guys to submit 2 different files as a part of your submission. File number 1, your calculations in the form of XLS6 file, and another one, PPTX. And the reason for that was simple, that because the number or the way you came up with your calculations may not be necessarily answering the questions mentioned or asked in the assignment, I was asking you to provide like a very cohesive, but at the same time very comprehensive list of sentences or list of responses for each given sentence. So on my end, I believe it was more than justified to give you either 50% of the mark for like the format of your assignment if you just submitted XLS file. But if you submitted both files, all of you received 100% mark. One more thing to mention, when we talk about frequency analysis, statistical significant analysis, I'm talking about frequency effect on advertising and statistical significance on the test results versus the general population. if you weren't present on our consultation number 3, I mentioned 2 things. So please don't spend much time on, first of all, understanding or working on the working or understanding the statistical representativeness for this assignment, because by default we're assuming that it is representative. And the reason for that is simple, that in advertising, and I believe you guys remember when we were in class, I was mentioning that sometimes it's really hard to achieve statistical significance for the given time period. So once we are approximately at the assumption that we are close, or we have a particular time range, like 1 month, and comparing that the results for particular months versus in other months, we are assuming that the results are representative, not necessarily statistically, but representative for us. And another thing you may came across, that once you were running the frequency or correlation analysis for frequency advertising effect, some of you encountered that there were no clear evidence or no such a significant result, which was forcing you to either reject or to take H1 or H0 hypothesis. And the reason for that was kind of correlated to the statistical significance for this assignment, because it wasn't about like the data analytics as the whole, it was about marketing analytics. So understanding the statistics concept is important for sure, but at the same time you need to understand from the financial standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, whether the results of your analysis are justified in terms of money, because again, marketing is not kind of like it's not ideal world, especially advertising, because in advertising there are many things maybe happening at the same time. So for example, you may be advertising cars, or you advertising car rental services. And for example, there was a case in Toronto approximately 3 years ago that the person was riding a van, and basically that person, he's now in jail, he forced his van to drive into the crowd of people. So what happened from the advertising standpoint, because all advertising was related to the search queries like van or car in Toronto, or car and sometimes accident because of poor targeting settings, people were receiving some people at some agencies, like the way the ads were set up, that every time when you search for cars or for something like that, you were getting news about the person driving his van into like crowds of people. But at the same time, you were getting the ad. So the idea was that for that particular campaign, which was ran at the time, you won't be able to talk about statistical significance, because some part of the day you had to terminate or to pause your digital advertising campaign completely, because first of all, privacy consideration and ethic considerations. Any questions about this? One second, sorry guys, it's a bit challenging. I will be kind of like going back and forth between different screens. Okay, as I'm seeing no questions. Cool. So then for the assignment 2, as I was mentioning, I was grading you guys in terms of like the actual submissions and the actual accuracy in terms of like the statistical distribution. So overall, because we got 2 students who did amazing job, I was grading you all on kind of like a descending order. So the marks you received are objective from my standpoint, and the grading criteria was provided to you. So if you have any questions or like the comments, or for example, you believe that something wasn't graded properly on my end, feel free to send me an email. More than happy to look into and just to provide like kind of like the list of rationales for this particular assignment. Because the trick again, with this particular assignment, there was no right or wrong answers, like a very specific answer I wanted to answer. but the way you were phrasing the number of rationales you provided, or for example, the advertising, which website is better, which one is worse, as well as how we should allocate your budgets, everything in terms of grading was based on your wording and your calculations, because I not only was looking at wording in the PowerPoint presentation, but also in the calculations. And if something wasn't making much sense to me, you were getting you got that mark that you are seeing in Moodle. Cool. Any questions about assignment 2 before we jump to assignment number 3? Okay, I'm assuming no questions. Okay, so let's jump to assignment number 3, Colgate-Palmolive precision toothbrush. So first of all, how many of you have started working on the case? Read the case, either put some calculations together, etc. So just for me to understand how you guys do. Just thumb up or just drop a note in chat so I can see it. Okay, Saman, thank you. Igor, thank you. What about the rest? Okay, just read through and made some notes. Okay, Kirillov, thank you. Okay, Victor, okay, thank you. Okay, cool. So first of all, I received like a very long list from one particular student, and let me just kind of like give you some important instructions so you can understand what should you do and what you should not do. So I basically consolidated and just going to share the list of questions with you here so you guys can see, and I will be just responding question by question as it is presented in this doc file. So first of all, this case contains a number of tables and a number of exhibits. So what is really important to understand, whether particular exhibit or table reflects objective information or it is part of the assumption. Because what you will encounter over the time that for the manager of Colgate, so the manager, the product manager who was trying to understand which positioning strategy we should choose, Stringberg, for her it was important to have a base for her rationales. So sometimes you will be dealing, in this case, with objective results versus estimated results. So for example, if you start thinking about particular tables, I'm telling you that, for example, there is a sentence highlighted on my machine that Stenberg consolidated her best estimate of the cost and price data, table B. I have a student who reached out to me with particular questions about Colgate as a company being presented on certain markets. And when I'm talking about certain markets, let me just quickly scroll to the right section. Yeah, this one. I'm talking about exhibit 13, apologies. So try to understand, first of all, where Colgate as a company is present. So what you need to do, essentially, is take a the actual results from one table, cross-verify like the factual results versus the estimate results, and to see and to understand if there are any particular hot trends. So for example, you know that, for example, the total market of toothbrushes, I'm talking about quantitative number, like a physical number of toothbrushes sold for 1991 is, let's say, 1 million. If you see that the percentage of total toothbrushes sold, for example, via food stores or drugstores given as a percentage, and over this, all of a sudden, you're seeing that the Colgate is not present on a particular market. Think about it, read the case again, and try to understand what is happening there. Whether your calculation is incorrect, or maybe in fact Colgate is not present there, or Colgate is present there. So thing number one. Thing number two, because we're dealing with estimate, particular results will be related to the actual toothbrushes usage, and they can be skewed. So let me kind of like unpack this. So because in the assignment, I was like the part of the task and assignment description, I'm asking you to justify the positioning of precision as a niche and as a mainstream product. You would need to first of all understand the overall pattern of the market, whether market is growing exponentially by XYZ percentage every single year. Market grows and then plateaus. Market was growing from 1989 till 1990 and then all of a sudden dropped. Those results you would need to calculate, because when you think about particular market segments, or for example, food stores, drug stores, the actual placements where those toothbrushes sold, you need to understand how the sales were trending per particular market, not as like the general number of toothbrushes sold. Because if you start looking at the case description, there were tons of notes and references made to different strategies used by toothbrush producers. So some toothbrushes were given as free samples, some toothbrushes were given as promos, some toothbrushes were given as combo, like 2x2 for the price of one, if I'm not mistaken again. So the understanding and the general idea is really important, and it is important of, first of all, understanding how market is spreading. That's why I was saying in our previous consultation that moving average and any sort of like a statistical or forecasting is not important here. Again, statistical knowledge is a key, no doubts about it. But you need to have a solid business understanding, a solid situational understanding on what's going on in the market. So once you start cross-verifying numbers, making calculations per market, per product, you should be able to identify and to realize what is going on the market. So then it will help you to predict what's going to happen in 1991 and 1992. 1992, 1993. So you guys will be able to start using well-justified, predicted numbers for toothbrushes, which we are assuming will be solved. Any questions about this before we jump to the actual list of questions? Okay, sweet, thank you. So then, list of the questions as promised. One moment, just trying to minimize you. So first of all, question number one. So the factory list price for the trade was leased, or so there were two prices listed per strategies, $2.13 and $1.85. But in table E, the prices are lower, $2.02 and $1.76. To which column in exhibit 4 correspond the manufacturer price, list or net? So if we're talking about the lower price, it would be the actual price, because if you look at the actual assignment description, the actual case description, you will see that basically the production or the manufacturer of toothbrushes is outsourced. I believe it is mentioned on the page 10. Just going with you. So production was subcontracted to Anchor Brush, who also manufactured Colgate Palmolive Plus line of toothbrushes. So again, we don't use our own inventories like a production or equipment. We using, as a Colgate, we using subcontractor. So subcontractor would be the one who will be giving us a discount because of the quantity and the contract we are signing that for this, the end of this particular year, we need to get this number of toothbrushes. So why the prices are different? Because it is in fact stated here that in practice, however, almost all sales to the trade were made at a discount of 5%. So basically throughout the lines, you will understand that manufacturer, Anchor Brush, provides 5% discount. So the end price, which you should refer as a manufacturer price, so basically the net or the cost of goods, in other words, would be the lower price. Clear? Thumb up so I can see it, please. Sweet. Okay, thank you. Next question. So exhibit 4. From the note below the table, I make conclusion that 5% trade discount is a special price for dental professionals after the expense of factory and do not impact Colgate's budget at all, correct? Yes. So as I was mentioning, as part of my answer for the question 1, 5% trade discount, don't make it complicated. Just use the number for cost of goods or cost of manufacturing or production as a lower number here. So by default, we're just assuming that, yeah, there is a discount provided to us, and by default, we're using the discount price. So just don't make things complicated, because again, this is complex assignment. I want you to work on a complex problem, but make it stupid simple. Okay, let's keep it that way. Number 3, the factory is a separate division. It means Colgate Palmolive toothbrush net absolute margin is difference between manufacturer list price and retail price. Correct. So this is correct if we don't take into consideration cost for advertising, cost for promotions, and any other associated costs. Because yeah, margin essentially is the difference between retail price and the manufacturer price, but there are also tons of other components which we need to include as the rationale for our pro forma, for our calculations in the pro forma, in order to assess whether mainstream or niche strategies are profitable, because we are going to spend XYZ amount of dollars for advertising these toothbrushes under mainstream scenario or under niche scenario, and those advertising numbers will be different. In fact, they are given to you. Another good question. So production capacity increases require 10 months lead time. It means that the equipment for niche strategy is ready. Yeah. So first of all, in the case description, it is mentioned that the equipment we are currently having in place, so basically by Anchor Brush, they have enough equipment to produce volumes of our new Colgate precision toothbrushes under niche scenario. So if we're talking about investments in equipment, not required for niche position. However, if we choose the mainstream strategy, we would need to install additional piece of equipment, which would require 10 months for installing additional equipment. So take that into consideration, point number 1. Point number 2, that will mean that you would have to increase the number of inventories for mainstream strategy. Your inventories or equipment can be only a whole number. So if according to your calculation, you are assuming that we would need to have 2.3 pieces of equipment installed, it's impossible. You either produce the whole line or you don't produce it at all. So no kind of like decimal, no numbers after decimal point for equipment under mainstream strategy. If I see it, it's a big no-no. Telling you right away. And I was mentioning that in the consultation number 3, mentioning this right now. It's a big no-no. So be careful with that one. And another question. I believe it was mentioned somewhere later here. 1 second, just looking through. But some of you may start wondering. So for example, okay, yeah, found it. So question number 5, cannibalization effect on production. So as I was mentioning last time, cannibalization, it is mentioned in the case that cannibalization in this case and the competition in this case, it's not the change of actual behavior of your customers. So yeah, there is a slight shifts in the usage patterns of customers. So they start using toothbrushes more often, but it's not something significant. So the way the market, the way the competitors compete on the market, it's by stealing one share of, let's say, from one company and basically taking another share from another company. So for example, for the Colgate, we need to understand that positioning under niche strategy would assume that we are going to steal market or market share from Oral-B, but at the same time we have 2 existing toothbrushes which we can also take a part of the market, so cannibalizing, because it's our products, and because we are introducing more innovative, newer toothbrushes, they would also take the chunk of our sales for this particular year or for these particular years. So because we cannot control or to decrease the numbers of toothbrushes, existing toothbrushes we are going to sell, because first of all, market is segmented and structured in a certain way. If you start producing less products for, let's say, Colgate Plus, but at the same time you haven't well advertised Colgate Precision yet, you will immediately lose the market share because you're increasing the quantity for one product. Therefore, more SKUs will be available in stores, and the store owners, they will just put the toothbrushes of your competitors. Therefore, you're just shooting yourself in the leg. So the smartest way on how to prevent it is next. In the first year, or basically the year you're going to introduce Precision, you're dealing with the same quantities. So basically, like the numbers of toothbrushes produced for Plus and for, what's the name of another toothbrush? So basically those 2 existing Colgate toothbrushes, they would be exactly the same. You don't want to lose the market. But because of the cannibalization effect, so we are taking the shares from 2 existing labels of toothbrushes produced by Colgate or offered by Colgate. That means that if we don't sell those toothbrushes, that means that there would be like a leftover, like a stoppage, which we are most likely to we will be reallocating in the next years, 1992, 1993. Make sense? Okay, sweet. So then don't play too hard with numbers, and please don't assume that we can reduce the numbers of toothbrushes for, 1 second, the numbers of toothbrushes produced for Precision by reducing the number or modifying the existing equipment for the previous toothbrushes. Those are 2 separate product lines, and if you look at the exhibits, there are some particular specifications given for Precision. It's a new product. You would require a lot of time and effort to reconfigure the existing equipment, additional financial cost. And secondly, you don't want to lose your market share. Okay, so then question number 6. It is stated in the text that Exhibit 1 and 14 are for the US market. What about Exhibit 6, 7, 13, and Table E? It seems to for USA, correct? So correct, unless specified the opposite. As far as I remember, and I was reviewing all tables yesterday, there is probably only one table about global consumption, but everything else, unless it's specified opposite, assume that is United States market exclusively. And again, keep that in mind, that tables and exhibits are important, but you need to read the context of the case, understanding where we're dealing with the factual, objective information and with assumptions. Cool. Question number 7. And question number 7 is really important, guys. So I'm asking you, pay attention, please. So if I understand correctly, there is no assumption about the cannibalization for each strategy. It is said like this: anywhere from 35% to 60% of the volumes indicated in table C. Does this mean that for both strategies, cannibalization assumptions are the same? Correct. Cannibalization assumptions, better to or easier to assume, would be the same. So what I'm asking you guys to do is to come up or build your calculations based on 3 different scenarios for cannibalization: optimistic, realistic, pessimistic. Optimistic, 35% cannibalization rate. Realistic, the average between 35 and 60, I would say 50%, totally fine by me. And that was realistic. And then optimistic, realistic, and pessimistic, 60% rate. So how you can frame or how you can decide what would you refer as realistic, pessimistic, and optimistic scenario, up to you. What I really care is, first of all, understanding why you put wording in a particular manner, and secondly, what is more important for you, having larger cannibalization for one type of the product. For example, in 1992, we are selling 60% less Colgate Plus toothbrushes, but at the same time, we are not selling all toothbrushes under niche strategy. That's fine. But if you're estimating that under niche strategy, we are stealing apart from the competitors, and realistically, 40% of the existing volumes of Colgate Plus, that also works. But what I'm asking you guys to do, provide your rationales. Because for niche strategy and for mainstream strategy, it is well written, well worded, under which circumstances, pricing models, as well as market segments, those toothbrushes will be positioned and be sold. So once you get that clear understanding per market, like drugstores, military, food markets, you will be able to clearly see whether the previous positioning of Colgate Plus overlaps with, for example, positioning for particular segment for Colgate Precision, and where it doesn't. So then it will be easier for you to justify, okay, I'm assuming that realistic, optimistic, or pessimistic scenario for cannibalization is this because XYZ. Clear? Okay. Cool. Because some of you haven't read this assignment fully, again, there is a definition of SKUs, or basically stock keeping units, as a definition provided within the case. Again, just reminding you guys that is basically just the space on the shelf, like the box. If you go to any particular supermarket or just market, you will see the different bubble gums basically at the checkout line. They all line up on the shelf, and shelf may contain like 5 or 6 different types of boxes of bubble gums, like oral, Airsmith, and others. So those boxes will be considered as SKU. So don't confuse yourself with just like the way that the retailers keep the spacing of the products on the shelves. So when you will be seeing the numbers like 5 SKUs per shelf, or 10 SKUs per shelf, and the Colgate is taking 5 or 6 of those, that means that we are taking 60% of the entire shelf space, which is perfect. In other words, because that means that the toothbrush has its popularity for the customers, and therefore retailers are forced to put more toothbrushes because of the average shelf turnover rate. So basically the frequency on how one toothbrush gets sold is higher than the same rate for another competitor's toothbrushes on the same shelf. So therefore, instead of kind of like going back and forth and just restocking those shelves more often for other products, retailers, if they don't have any prior agreements with other competitors or us, they will just add or adjust the spacing on the shelves in terms of SKUs unit by themselves. However, occasionally as a company, we can negotiate about those terms, or providing our projections, or giving them some sort of like a commission or incentive. Again, what is really important about this case, that maybe some numbers will not be essentially clear because they're given for 1989, 1990, 1991. I'm asking you to build your projections for 1992 and 1993. So for those previous 3 years, it is important to understand the patterns, what's exactly was going on with overall number of toothbrushes, the current state of the market, increasing, decreasing, plateauing, and then from there, understanding that, for example, in 1992, situation would be better, worse, the same, 1993, the same, worse, or plateauing. And then based on those projections for 1992 and 1993, you will be able to calculate all required metrics, which will be telling you which positioning strategy is better, mainstream or niche, given the assumption that cannibalization rate under optimistic, pessimistic, and realistic scenario will be provided as given. Because again, those scenarios is more for us to say, okay, what if and what if not? Kind of like logical arguments or assumptions. What if we are anticipating that market will be growing, but in fact it will be growing that fast? Or the opposite. What if we are expecting that competitors won't be present significantly or positioning their items? So we potentially will be seeing shares from the existing other products. Scenario for cannibalization, pessimistic. Again, when you are referring to those scenarios, pessimistic, optimistic, and realistic, make sure you write very clear descriptions, explanations, call them the way you, whatever the way you like them. But enough for me to understand why you decided to call that particular scenario optimistic, pessimistic, and realistic, with certain like bullet points or even the sentences. Again, no external data is required for this assignment or case. US population, not important. I don't know, like statistics on toothbrush usages for US market from 1970 till 1990. No, not essential. Just work with the data you have on this case. Statistical analysis, correlation, everything. Yeah, you can do it, but I'm telling you right away, it's not important here. It's not about the prediction of the results using statistical or data modeling methods. Not at all. What you guys getting here, real life problem. Data is probably not the most recent, but because this case has been around for a while, it's been relatively well worked and adjusted in terms of numbers. So there would be like a number of different assumptions you may came up with, and one student already came up with, which I'm really excited about. So again, read it, calculate it. If some calculations doesn't make any sense, start challenging your numbers, whether they are accurate or not. And if they are accurate, you're getting either over positive or over negative numbers. Start asking the questions. Okay, if there is something going on the market which is not mentioned in the case, because again, all the data you're dealing with, mostly, it is assumptions or estimates of the product manager. Product manager is not always correct. or may not always see something that the way we as analysts may see those numbers. Cool? Oh, Jesus, it's me talking for 36 minutes straight. Okay, if there are any questions regarding assignment 3 as of now, and again, if it's something related to your calculations, I do encourage you strongly to send those to me over emails. Not sharing, not telling your calculations to anyone else except me. Because again, I won't be able to answer and say, yes, it is the right calculation. My mission here is just to give you guys the direction. But they're saying, yes, you may want to look maybe on some information on this page just to cross-verify. Because again, I want you to have the feeling that I'm grading you objectively, so I don't have favorites at all. And secondly, my objective is to, once you guys finish and graduate from this course or from this program, you would get or grasp something new for you, the different way of how you were approaching the situation or different way of thinking about a particular problem. That's the only objective I have. So numbers, accuracy, important as far as you having the right direction. Because again, in the real world, with the real case, you will be revising numbers maybe like several times. Because it's a kind of like simulation of the real business problem, I do have certain requirements, but they're not that strict because again, you would need to talk to a different number of different stakeholders. Here, I'm your main stakeholder. So if you have any questions or require clarification, I'm your stakeholder. I'm your guide to answer your questions. I'm able and willing to give you direction, not the answer. So you will be able to answer those questions by yourself. Cool. Cool. Okay. Questions, comments, suggestions regarding assignment number 3. Okay, sweet. That means that there are none. All right, guys. Basically, I just have kind of like a very quick exercise, so to say. So again, it's a Kahoot practice. So similarly as we did in class a while ago, let me just open it up. So remember what we were doing. I'm just trying to launch it, and feel free to join once I get all the results available on the screen. Just give me 1 second. Just player. Yep. Let's see. Okay. So feel free to join the room. So go to kahoot.it and the game pin number is 6184607. Hoping and sharing this with you in our dialogue. Just give me 1 moment. So again, you join, you answer. I tested and validated this quiz yesterday, so should be very straightforward. It will be more like, again, the discussion about the results you're getting based per quiz versus the actual result. So kind of like for you guys to understand, or you need to look up or probably spend a bit more time checking about particular topics or subjects covered in this course. So how many students we have today? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 2 more people. We are just at 4. Okay, 5. 1 more. Who is not that year? Okay, 6. Cool. Ready to start? 60 seconds, regular rules. Either single answer or true or false. No multiple choice questions. Ready, steady, go. So 12 questions, not difficult at all. So first of all, what's the difference between branding and marketing? Because many of you guys had the challenges with this question last time. Please answer. So options. Number one, branding is all about reaction. Marketing is about generating awareness. Option number two, marketing is about reaction. Branding is all about generating awareness. Option three, branding equals marketing. Option four, branding has value. Marketing doesn't have value at all. Five, okay, one more person. 15 seconds left. Let's make it fun. Okay, so marketing is about reaction. Branding is all about generating awareness. In fact, the opposite. Branding is the reaction. Remember, push versus pull. So please, again, review this part because it is important that you guys always have right answer and know the right answer. I know that you probably chose this one because of the wording. Wording is tricky, so pay attention to next time. Okay, in digital advertising, the most common type of attribution is post-view, post-click attribution. True or false? Option true or option false? 'Just waiting for one more person to answer. Okay, true. Thank you guys. That's the right answer. I believe it's self-explanatory because post-view or post-click attribution is the easiest to track. So the most common type of attribution used for conversion tracking. What is the price elasticity? We are talking here about definitions. So option number one, percentage to which the effective desire for something changes as its price changes. Option two, ability to resume its normal shape after being stretched or compressed. Option three, connection between two or more pricing components. So pricing components like all the factors which are included in the price. Packaging, storage, cost of equipment, etc. And option four, all answers are correct. Ten seconds left. Okay, sweet. I believe it's self-explanatory. No actual need to explain anything further. Option A or option one is the correct one. Okay, that's easy. Let's a bit complicated things. What is not true or accurate about A and B testing? A and B testing is panacea for addressing poor user experience. Option B, great way to gain a quick understanding of a question you have. Option C, A/B testing requires statistical significance for accurate interpretation. And option four, A and B testing is more common in marketing than multivariate testing. Again, what is not true or what is not accurate about A and B testing? Be careful with wording, again, because I try to make it tricky. Remember, thinking fast and slow. Slow and fast thinking. Rational versus irrational. Don't go too fast with the answers. Read questions. Read and follow instructions. Okay, A/B testing is not the panacea or not the universal solution for addressing poor user experience. It helps you to gain a quick understanding of the question you have about a particular problem. True. Helps you to, or requires a statistical significance for accurate interpretation. True. And is more common in marketing than multivariate testing because multivariate testing requires way more data than just the standard A/B testing. So the correct answer, which is not true about A/B testing, that A/B testing is not a universal solution for addressing poor user experience. Okay, this question was the last time, so I hope you remember the answer. For regression-based segmentation, we are interested in the R-squared coefficient to be a highest, actually typo, the highest as possible. True or false? Look at this doggy. Maybe he's telling you something. I would be really disappointed if you guys answered this question incorrectly. So please make sure that right now you give me the right answer. Okay, those of you who answered false, please take additional look, because again, if I find out who were those people, I will make sure that you guys will get that question on the exam. Okay, Kenneth, doing terrific job. Okay, question number 6, halfway through. For K-mean clustering, what is the number of a coefficient based on what we are deciding on the number of segments? Again, this question was before, but I just want to make sure that you guys remember the right answer. Option 1, error sum of squares, SSE coefficient, R-squared coefficient, alpha, and probability value, or p-value. For K means clustering only. We did that in class, just recall it. Three seconds left. Okay, again, to people, please be careful, guys, but error sum of squares is the correct answer. Thank you. Data segmentation requires identification of marketing insights findings as a result of segmentation. True or false? We are talking about data segmentation here. What another type of segmentation do we know? And if data segmentation requires identification of marketing insights or findings as a result of segmentation, think about it for a second before you answer. Ta-da! That's correct. Because data segmentation doesn't require identification or inside production. Data segmentation is just the numeric output. All the interpretations which comes, especially in marketing insights and marketing findings, is a applicable or are applicable to marketing segmentation, not the data segmentation. Data segmentation is just tinier or smaller portion of the marketing segmentation. That's why. Thank you, guys. Canis, doing terrific job. Thank you, sir. And question number 8. What is a consumer surplus? Option A, difference between prices a firm reserves and willing to sell items at. So basically something company or firm related. Option 2, offering of several products, services for sale as a combo. Option 3, none of the options is correct. And option C, difference between prices, those consumers pay and willing to pay. So difference between A and D. And option A, it's all about company, a firm. Option D, between consumers. Sorry guys, maybe wording is not explicitly well written because I'm limited to a particular number of the characters, but it should give you like a very good sense about the answer for this particular question. Okay, I'm doing well. But in fact, it is different between the prices the consumer is willing to pay versus consumer actually paying. So we are trying to maximize consumer surplus, basically saying that his willingness would be matching to the actual price he paying. Therefore, the number of goods he is getting is larger. The offers or offering of several product services as a combo, it is a price bundling or product bundling. So that's different. Difference between price a firm receives and willing to sell and items at, it's not the consumer surplus, it's actually like the company surplus or production surplus. So a bit of benchmarking. Benchmarking is neither a better nor a worse practice than competitor analysis or research. True or false? And this question is taken word and word from our lecture. I believe it was day number 6 or lecture number 6. One second. It's neither
Something went wrong.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. Apologies, guys, but you all answered correctly. I believe I just specified the wrong option, but apologies. True is the accurate answer for this question. Well, you know, things occasionally may don't work the way they're supposed to, but of course you all answered incorrectly. No one got the percentage or score boost, so we are fine. But you know the answer. What is the acceptable level of data accuracy in digital analytics? All given in ranges. Option 1, 1 to 3%. Option 2, 1 to 5%. Option 3, 5 to 10%. And option 4, more than 10%. Here we are talking about deviation or anything in the range either plus or minus 1% till 3% or 1 till 5%, plus or minus, doesn't matter. So basically deviation either towards data inflation or data reduction. Yep, the correct answer is 1 to 5%. So there is a slide about green, yellow, and red colors, and the acceptable level will be 1 to 5%. But of course, we always want to minimize that number, so be as lowest as possible. Question 11. What is the biggest disadvantage of using break-even analysis for profitability analysis or calculation? apologies. Option number 1 depends on the cash flow forecast. Option 2, very difficult to calculate. Option 3, short-term focus. Option 4, ignores volatility and implies that the growth during the time is steady. Again, disadvantage of break-even analysis, full profitability analysis or calculations. Short-term focus is the accurate answer. So ignores volatility and implies that the growth during the time is steady is for NPV analysis. Short-term focus is the accurate answer because for the break-even, you're just working with the given date period or time range, either the same quarter. So we estimated that the number of items we need to sell for this quarter or for this financial year should be this number. That's why short-term focus is the correct answer. And again, it is mentioned in the slides, so be careful, take a look and spend some time just thinking about the calculations, the way they are built. Plus you will get enough time to practice all this calculation while you will be working on the assignment 3. Last question, when you shouldn't apply marketing mix model. So we are talking about like scenarios. So scenario A, cookie data is not available. Option B, conversion sale is always offline. Option C, primary goal is to quantify sales drivers. And option D, significant investments in digital advertising are in fact a thing. So again, when we or you shouldn't apply marketing mix model. The opposite for the marketing mix modeling is multi-touch attribution. I just gave you the heads up. So, okay. So marketing mix modeling, it's all about or mostly about offline. So if you're hearing or seeing something about digital or online advertisement, that's a part of multi-touch attribution or or channel or MTA modeling. So marketing mix modeling, just remember this in the next way. MMM, it's all about offline. MTA, it's all about online or digital. Okay, Kenneth, IK, and you guys did a terrific job. Most of you answered 7 out of 10. Just again, apologies for that particular question. I probably, Max, great work. I probably messed up with that particular question about true or false, but again, apologies for that one. At least you got a chance to practice. So please review the things or the mistakes you made during this quiz, because the wording for questions at the exam would be very similar to this one, only with one difference. I would add some multi-option questions, so multiple answers question, as well as we will be having this is the next structure for the exam. So I'm thinking about 15 test questions. So you will have either 1 or 2 minutes to answer every given question, then 2 open questions for 15 minutes each, and then 1 final question, just a calculation. So basically calculate the break-even analysis for scenario 1 or for product 1 versus product 2 and justify which one is better. So for the exam duration will be 1 hour 30 minutes, and the way it will be delivered to you would be next. I will create and upload the files. No, not in person. Unfortunately, right now, no exams will be conducted in person, so it will be digital. So you guys will be, first of all, receive the invitation in your calendars. So I will, or someone from the tutors, upload all the documents to Moodle or into Moodle. Those documents or the exam tasks descriptions will become available right at the time when the exam starts, and you would need to submit everything, all your calculations, responses, before before the exam is over. Igor, let's manage this is in Kahoot. Yeah, I wish we can, but it's not the right way to do, because first of all, Kahoot doesn't allow you to submit the calculations and everything else, but I forget. Cool. Okay, thank you guys for all your work today, and the questions some of you sent to me day before yesterday, who were in touch with me across all different things they wanted to discuss. We have approximately like 5, maybe 7 minutes if you guys have any other questions or things you wanted to chat. Aside of that, if there are no questions, feel free to bounce. I'm here for another 5 minutes. Thank you.